The message came on a Tuesday. Captain Jack Miller was knee-deep in the guts of an old satellite when his comm unit buzzed. He wiped the grease from his hands onto his already stained jumpsuit and tapped the device on his wrist. "Miller here," he grunted. "Captain, you need to get to command right now." The voice belonged to General Thompson. It was rare to hear the old man sound shaken. "We've made contact." Jack's heart skipped a beat. Those 3 words changed everything. For decades, humanity had sent signals into the darkness of space, hoping for a response. Now, they had one. Jack looked around at his orbital junkyard, a floating collection of dead satellites, old ship parts, and space debris that most people thought worthless. His business of salvaging and repurposing spacecraft scraps suddenly seemed small against the weight of first contact. "On my way," he replied, already floating toward his small transport ship. The United Space Command headquarters buzzed with activity. Screens displayed a sleek, silver spacecraft unlike anything humans had built. It had entered Earth orbit 30 minutes ago and broadcast a message in perfect English. "We come in peace," the alien transmission had said. "We are the Valthians, travelers from beyond your stars. We wish to meet." General Thompson nodded at Jack as he entered the control room. "Miller, glad you're here. Why call me?" Jack asked. He was no diplomat or high-ranking officer, just the owner of the largest orbital salvage operation in Earth space. "Because you know ships better than anyone. I want your eyes on this." The room fell silent as the communication screen flickered to life. The face that appeared was humanoid but clearly alien. Pale blue skin, large eyes with vertical pupils, and a mouth too wide for a human face. "Greetings, people of Earth. I am Commander Vex of the Valthian Exploration Fleet." The alien's voice was smooth, almost musical. "We have traveled far to meet new civilizations. We request permission to send representatives to discuss peaceful relations." After a brief discussion among Earth's hastily assembled welcome committee, permission was granted. Jack watched the proceedings with growing unease. 20 years in space had taught him to trust his gut. And right now, it was screaming that something wasn't right. 3 days later, Jack found himself giving a tour of his salvage yard to Commander Vex and 2 other Valthian officials. Earth's leadership had insisted on showing the aliens all aspects of human space operations, including Jack's business. "This is most curious," Commander Vex said, gesturing at the organized chaos of Jack's yard. "You collect garbage." Jack felt his face grow hot. "One person's trash is another person's treasure. We repurpose and rebuild. Nothing goes to waste." The aliens exchanged glances that Jack didn't need a translator to understand. Amusement, maybe even pity. "Fascinating primitive approach," one of the other Valthians remarked. "Our civilization abandoned such recycling centuries ago. We simply fabricate what we need." Jack led them through his main workshop, where his team was converting an old fuel tank into a habitat module. The Valthians watched with what looked like poorly concealed disdain. "How do you defend your world with such limited technology?" Commander Vex asked, running a 3-fingered hand over the scared surface of a decommissioned shuttle. "We manage," Jack replied stiffly. "Humanity is resourceful." Commander Vex smiled, showing too many teeth. "Indeed. Resourcefulness is an admirable trait in developing species." The tour ended with a brief meeting in Jack's cluttered office. As the aliens prepared to leave, Jack excused himself to check on a repair. Instead, he slipped into the adjacent storage room and left the door slightly ajar. The Valthians spoke in their own language, apparently believing themselves alone. Jack activated the translation app on his comm unit, a prototype he'd salvaged from a research satellite last year. The words came through broken but clear enough. Perfect target, minimal defenses, primitive technology. The resources alone, worth the effort. Water, minerals. Their repurposing habits, amusing but useless against our Armada. Begin preparations. 3 Earth cycles should be sufficient. Jack's blood ran cold. He'd suspected something was off about the friendly visitors, but this confirmed his worst fears. The Valthians weren't here for peaceful relations. They were scouts for an invasion. As the aliens left, Jack headed straight for General Thompson's office. The general listened to Jack's recording, his face growing grimmer with each translated word. "This could be a misunderstanding," Thompson said, but his tone lacked conviction. "Sir, with respect, they're planning to attack in 3 days," Jack insisted. "They think we're easy pickings because our technology isn't as flashy as theirs. They laughed at my yard, at how we repurpose things. What would you suggest, Captain? Our conventional forces are no match for their level of technology." Jack stared out the window at Earth below, beautiful and vulnerable. Then his eyes drifted to his junkyard, floating in the distance, filled with discarded satellites, old ship parts, and chunks of space debris. A plan began forming in his mind. "General, I think I have an idea, but you're going to think I'm crazy." Thompson sighed. "At this point, Miller, I'm open to crazy. They underestimate us because we reuse old tech. They think it makes us weak." Jack leaned forward, eyes bright with purpose. "But what if that's actually our strength? They won't expect an attack from what they consider junk. What are you suggesting?" "Give me authority to organize our defense. Let me use my junkyard fleet." Thompson raised an eyebrow. "Your what?" "Every piece of scrap in my yard has potential, General. Some of those old satellites still have functioning thrusters. Those decommissioned defense platforms. Their targeting systems work fine. We've got hundreds of fuel tanks that could be repurposed as bombs." "You want to fight an advanced alien armada with space junk?" Thompson asked incredulously. Jack nodded. "They're expecting conventional warfare. High-tech against high-tech. But my team and I know how to make something from nothing. We know how to use what others throw away." After a long moment, Thompson nodded slowly. "You have 48 hours, Miller. Make it count." Jack stood and saluted. "They laughed at our scrap, sir. Let's see if they're still laughing when it hits them." Jack stood in the center of his largest workshop bay, looking at the small group of people gathered before him. 8 hours had passed since his meeting with General Thompson, and he had called in every favor he was owed. "I know this sounds crazy," Jack said, his voice echoing in the metal chamber. "But in less than 3 days, those Valthian ships are coming back, and they're bringing friends." Tess Walker, his chief engineer, crossed her arms. With wild red hair and a face full of freckles, she looked more like an artist than the mechanical genius she was. "And the general actually approved this plan of yours." "Not exactly approved," Jack admitted. "Let's say he's allowing it while the real military prepares." Marcus Reed, a former military pilot with dark skin and serious eyes, leaned against a workbench. "So we're the backup plan for when the real defenses fail." Jack nodded. "Pretty much." Eli Jones, Jack's oldest friend and the best salvage expert in Earth orbit, spat on the floor. The skinny, weathered man had spent more time in Zero than anyone else in the room. "Well, I'd rather go down fighting with junk than hiding in a bunker." "What exactly is the plan here, Jack?" Maya Chen asked. The young computer specialist had joined Jack's crew only 6 months ago, but her ability to revive dead systems was unmatched. Jack tapped a button on his wrist comm, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the room. It showed hundreds of dots representing the pieces of salvage in Jack's yard. "We have 48 hours to turn this junk into a defense fleet," Jack said. "We need weapons, shields, and a way to coordinate it all." Tess laughed. "With what? Half this stuff barely has working power systems." "That's where you come in," Jack replied. He turned to Maya. "And we need your magic touch with the computer systems." Maya's eyes narrowed as she studied the display. "I might be able to network some of the old satellite systems together. Create a distributed command structure." Marcus stepped forward, military training evident in his posture. "Even if we get these pieces working, how do we fight an advanced alien fleet?" Jack smiled. That's the beauty of it. They don't expect us to fight at all. At least, not with this. He gestured around the workshop. They saw our junk and laughed. They don't see it as a threat. So we have surprise on our side. Marcus mused. What else? Jack tapped his comm again, and the display changed to show readings from the Valthian ship's visit. I had sensors running when they docked. Their ships use a strange energy signature, but more importantly, they seem to have blind spots. Eli moved closer to the display. What kind of blind spots? They don't register certain Earth metals well on their scanners, and they filter out radiation patterns common to our old satellites as background noise. Jack's eyes gleamed. They're looking for high-tech threats, not junk moving in unusual ways. Tess began to nod slowly, ideas clearly forming. So we use our junk's natural stealth. We could modify some of the old telecom satellites into jammers. And those decommissioned defense platforms still have functioning railguns, Marcus added, warming to the idea. What about the old fuel tanks from the Mars missions? Eli suggested. Fill them with the right mix, and they'd make nice bombs. Maya was already typing on her portable terminal. I can rewrite the guidance systems from those weather satellites to work as a coordinated swarm. Jack felt a surge of hope as his team began talking over each other, suggesting ideas and solutions. This was why he trusted them. While Earth's military leaders prepared conventional defenses the Valthians would expect and easily counter, his junkyard dogs would create something unpredictable. The next 36 hours passed in a blur of activity. Sleep was forgotten as Jack's core team expanded to include every salvage worker, mechanic, and space engineer who could be trusted with the secret. The orbital scrapyard transformed into a hive of frantic but purposeful work. Tess led a team converting old satellites into jammers designed to disrupt Valthian communications. Their systems are advanced, but they still use electromagnetic waves. She explained as she rewired a satellite's dish. If we broadcast enough noise on all frequencies, they won't be able to coordinate. Marcus worked with former military contacts to reactivate weapon systems on decommissioned platforms. These railguns are outdated by military standards, he told Jack during a brief rest period, but they can still accelerate metal chunks to deadly speeds. Eli's team prepared hundreds of old fuel tanks and storage containers, filling them with mixtures of reactive materials. Not exactly high-tech bombs, the salvage expert said with a grin, but they'll make a mess when they hit. Maya barely looked up from her workstation for 18 straight hours. When she finally did, her eyes were red-rimmed but triumphant. I've got it, she announced. I can link all these different systems together. We can control everything from here. Jack moved among the teams, offering encouragement, solving problems, and keeping everyone focused on the imminent threat. Earth's official representatives continued diplomatic talks with the Valthians, who maintained their friendly facade. But orbital sensors detected energy signatures at the edge of the solar system, more Valthian ships approaching. With 12 hours remaining before the estimated arrival of the Valthian fleet, General Thompson visited the scrapyard. Jack gave him a tour of their preparations. I've seen some crazy operations in my time, Miller, Thompson said, watching as workers loaded modified satellites into launch positions. But this takes the prize. Crazy might be our only chance, sir, Jack replied. Thompson nodded grimly. Our official defenses are ready, but their technology is far beyond ours. The Security Council has been debating surrender terms. Jack's jaw tightened. We're not surrendering. No, Thompson agreed. We're not. That's why I've come to tell you that you're now officially part of Earth's defense strategy. I've convinced the Council to give you operational authority for your... What are you calling this fleet? Jack looked out at the organized chaos of repurposed junk that represented humanity's unconventional defense. We call ourselves the Junkyard Dogs, sir. Thompson almost smiled. Fitting. The Valthians will be expecting pedigree warriors with shiny weapons. Instead, they'll get street mutts with teeth. As the general left, Jack received an alert. The Valthian Armada had been detected entering the solar system, a force 10 times larger than expected. His comm unit buzzed with incoming messages from panicked officials and military commanders. Jack silenced the noise and gathered his core team. "They're early, and there are more of them than we thought," he said simply. "We need to move now." Tess, Marcus, Eli, and Maya looked at each other, then back at Jack. No one spoke of fear, though it was present in all their eyes. "Time to show them what jump can do," Eli said finally. Jack nodded. "Launch everything. The junkyard dogs are going hunting." The Valthian ships entered Earth's solar system like a swarm of gleaming insects. Their hulls shone with an unnatural blue light as they moved in perfect formation. From his command center, a converted storage module attached to his largest salvage vessel, Jack watched their approach on Maya's cobbled-together sensor display. "Count is over 200 ships," Maya reported, her voice tight. "Main battle group will reach Mars orbit in 3 hours." Jack studied the formation. The Valthians moved with military precision, their ships arranged in neat, organized patterns. Everything about them spoke of order and advanced technology. "Any response to Earth's hails?" he asked. Marcus shook his head. "They're ignoring all communications now. No more pretending to be friendly. United Space Command is mobilizing everything they have," Tess added, looking at another screen. "But their biggest ships are still days away from returning from the outer colonies." Jack took a deep breath. Earth's conventional defenses, orbital platforms, and the small fleet of military vessels currently in the system would be hopelessly outmatched. "Status of our assets?" he asked. Eli grinned, bringing up a different display. "All in position and waiting for your command. 342 pieces of prime junk, ready to ruin someone's day." Unlike the orderly Valthian formation, Jack's fleet was scattered throughout the space between Mars and Earth, hidden among natural debris, dormant in old orbital paths, or disguised as abandoned equipment. To anyone scanning the system, they would appear as nothing more than the usual garbage that accumulated after a century of human space exploration. "Sir," Maya said suddenly, "the Valthians are broadcasting. They're transmitting on all frequencies." "Let's hear it," Jack said. The face of Commander Vex appeared on the main screen. The Valthian's expression was no longer hiding behind a mask of friendliness. "People of Earth," Vex began, his tone cold and superior. "Your planet has resources our empire requires. Surrender immediately and submit to Valthian authority. Resistance is pointless and will only lead to unnecessary destruction. You have 1 Earth hour to comply." The message repeated once, then cut off. "Well, he's not being subtle anymore," Tess muttered. Jack's comm unit buzzed with an incoming call from General Thompson. The general's face appeared on a side screen, looking grim. "Miller, you seeing this?" "Yes, sir. 1 hour ultimatum." Thompson's jaw tightened. "The Security Council is split. Half want to fight, half think surrender might save lives." "If we surrender, sir, we'll never get our planet back," Jack said firmly. "I know." Thompson paused. "The President has authorized all defensive measures. Your operation is go." Jack nodded. "Understood, sir. We'll do what we can." As the connection ended, Jack turned to his team. "This is it. Are we ready?" Marcus pointed to a tactical display. "Earth's defense platforms are powering up. They'll engage when the Valthians come into range. And they'll get crushed," Tess said bluntly. "Those platforms were designed to fight other humans, not advanced aliens. Which is why we need to be ready to move the moment they realize our conventional defenses aren't enough," Jack said. "Maya, is your control system online?" The young computer specialist nodded. "Yes. All our units are linked and responding. I've distributed the command functions across multiple systems, so they can't shut us down in one hit." "Good. Eli, are the decoys ready?" The salvage expert gave a thumbs up. "Ready to make noise and draw attention exactly when we want it." Jack looked at the countdown timer on the main screen. 43 minutes until the Valthians' deadline expired. "Everyone to your stations," he ordered. "This is going to happen fast." The Earth's response to the Valthian ultimatum came 5 minutes before the deadline. A simple message, broadcast on the same frequencies. "Earth belongs to humanity. We will defend our home." The reaction was immediate. The Valthian fleet accelerated, their formation shifting into attack patterns. The leading edge of their Armada approached Earth's orbital defense grid. From his command post, Jack watched as Earth's military deployed its best defenses. Railvan platforms fired hypervelocity rounds. Missile launches created brief, bright flares against the darkness of space. Beam weapons lanced out from the few energy-equipped stations. It was impressive and completely ineffective. The Valthian ships barely slowed. Some smaller Earth missiles detonated against invisible shields. Most were destroyed before they even reached their targets. The railgun rounds, moving at tremendous speeds, simply vanished on contact with the Valthian hulls. "They're absorbing or deflecting everything," Marcus said, his military experience evident in his professional tone despite the dire situation. On the comm channels, Earth's military commanders sounded increasingly desperate as they exhausted their weapons with almost no effect. The Valthian ships began to return fire, precise, devastating strikes that obliterated defense platforms one by one. "They're toying with us," Tess said, watching as another Earth defense station exploded. Jack checked the tactical display. The Valthians were fully engaged with Earth's defenses, their attention focused on the obvious threats. The aliens moved with overconfident precision, clearly unconcerned about any surprise attacks. "They're expecting us to fight conventionally," Jack said. "They're expecting technology versus technology." He turned to his team, determination hardening his features. "They still haven't noticed our junk." "Time to change that," Eli said with a fierce grin. Jack nodded. "Maya, activate Phase 1. Maya's fingers flew across her console, activating decoys and jammers now. Throughout the space around Earth, dozens of supposedly dead satellites suddenly powered up. Old communication arrays began broadcasting nonsense signals across all frequencies. Weather satellites released clouds of metallic chaff. Navigation beacons sent out conflicting position data. On the tactical display, the perfect Valthian formation faltered momentarily as their communications were disrupted. "They're adjusting," Marcus reported. "Changing frequencies, trying to filter out the interference." "Phase 2, Jack ordered. Eli hit a sequence of commands, releasing the first wave. Across the battle space, what had appeared to be harmless debris began to move. Derelict fuel tanks, their engines secretly repaired and enhanced, accelerated toward the Valthian fleet. Old satellite parts, weighted and balanced to become kinetic weapons, spun up to speed. The Valthians barely reacted at first. The approaching objects registered as mere debris on their sensors, the kind of junk they had already dismissed as harmless. Then the first impacts happened. Jack had guessed correctly about the Valthian blind spots. Their advanced shields, designed to stop energy weapons and smart munitions, weren't calibrated to detect or stop simple objects moving at high speeds. The first wave of fuel tanks, packed with reactive materials, slammed into a dozen Valthian ships. The explosions weren't especially powerful by military standards, but they were unexpected. Valthian vessels rocked from impacts they never saw coming. Their perfect formation began to break as ships maneuvered to avoid the suddenly threatening debris. "It's working," Tess said, her voice filled with disbelief and hope. "They're confused," Marcus added. "Their formation is fragmenting." Jack allowed himself a small smile. "They laughed at our junk. Let's see if they're still laughing." He looked at his team. "Prepare Phase 3. The real attack begins now." "Phase 3, now," Jack commanded. Maya's fingers danced across her console, sending activation codes to their hidden weapons. Across the battle space, what had appeared to be harmless pieces of space junk suddenly came to life. Decommissioned defense satellites, their weapon systems reactivated by Marcus's team, powered up and locked onto Valthian targets. Old space station modules, hollowed out and packed with improvised explosives by Ely's crew, began accelerating toward enemy formations. Ancient communications arrays, repurposed by Tess into electronic warfare platforms, started broadcasting targeted jamming signals directly at Valthian ships. On the main screen, Jack watched as confusion spread through the alien fleet. The precise Valthian formation, already disrupted by the first attacks, now broke apart completely as ships tried to deal with threats coming from all directions. "They're scrambling," Marcus reported, a note of satisfaction in his voice. "No more neat patterns." "Their communications are degrading," Maya added. "My algorithms are isolating their command frequencies and targeting them specifically." A priority alert flashed on Jack's display. General Thompson's face appeared on the side screen. "Miller, what the hell is happening out there?" The general looked both confused and hopeful. "The Valthians were cutting through our defenses like paper, then suddenly they're flying into each other and acting disorganized." "That would be the junkyard dogs, sir," Jack replied with a tight smile. "Turns out our scrap isn't so useless after all." "Keep it up," Thompson ordered. "We're regrouping our remaining forces to support your operation." As the connection ended, Eli pointed to a new development on the tactical display. "They're adapting. Some ships are changing their shield configurations." Jack had expected this. The Valthians were technologically advanced. They wouldn't stay confused for long. "Time for the second wave," he ordered. "Tess, activate the EMP devices." Tess grinned as she entered commands. "Those old nuclear power cells are about to earn their keep." Throughout the battlefield, what appeared to be ordinary chunks of space debris suddenly emitted powerful electromagnetic pulses. Jack's team had salvaged power cells from decommissioned nuclear satellites and rigged them to overload in a very specific way. The resulting EMPs weren't powerful enough to disable the Valthian ships completely, but they created momentary disruptions in their energy systems. In those brief windows of vulnerability, the repurposed defense satellites struck with precision. Outdated laser weapons and kinetic projectiles found their targets, causing real damage for the first time in the battle. Direct hits on 17 enemy vessels. Marcus called out, excitement breaking through his professional demeanor. On the main screen, a Valthian cruiser spun out of control, venting atmosphere from a gaping hole in its side. Another enemy ship collided with a third as both tried to evade a cloud of approaching debris. "We're hurting them," Tess said with disbelief in her voice. "They're regrouping," Maya warned. "I'm detecting a surge of communications from that larger ship in the center. I think it's their command vessel." Jack studied the ship Maya indicated. It was twice the size of the others, with a distinctive design that set it apart from the rest of the fleet. "That's Commander Vex's ship," he said. "They're trying to reorganize." As if to confirm his assessment, the Valthian ships began to form new patterns, more defensive than before. Their weapons fire became more coordinated, systematically targeting the now revealed human weapons. "They're destroying our satellites," Marcus reported as several of their repurposed defense platforms exploded. "And they figured out our EMP trick," Tess added. "Their shields are adapting." Jack had known this would happen. Each trick would only work once against such an advanced enemy, but that had been part of the plan all along. "Time to use our biggest advantage," he said. "Maya, activate the scrapper." Maya nodded and sent the command. In the distance, floating among genuine debris, Jack's personal salvage ship, now heavily modified and renamed the Scrapper, powered up its engines. "Eli, you're with me," Jack said, moving toward the docking tube. "Tess, Marcus, Maya, keep coordinating the attack from here. Make sure our remaining assets give the Valthians plenty to worry about." Jack and Eli made their way quickly to the Scrapper, a vessel that Commander Vex had personally toured and dismissed as primitive junk. The Valthian hadn't noticed the modifications Jack's team had been making even then, preparing for this moment. "What's the plan, boss?" Eli asked as they strapped into their positions. Jack activated the ship's systems. While they're busy with all our little surprises, we're going to deliver the big one. The scrapper detached from the command module and moved out, its engines barely humming. From the outside, it still looked like a beat-up salvage vessel, exactly as Jack wanted it to appear. Their command ship is the key, Jack explained as they accelerated slowly, taking a roundabout approach to avoid detection. If we can take out Commander Vex, their whole operation might fall apart. Eli checked the status of their special cargo, a modified mining drill surrounded by the most powerful explosives they could cobble together. And just how do we get close enough to use this thing? Jack smiled grimly. We play dead. Across the battle space, the conflict intensified. Earth's military, gaining confidence from the unexpected success of Jack's junkyard fleet, pushed forward with their remaining forces. The Valthians, recovering from their initial confusion, fought back with increasingly effective tactics. But with each passing minute, more of Jack's hidden assets came into play. Old satellites crashed into Valthian ships. Repurposed fuel tanks exploded near their formation. Jammers continued to disrupt their communications. It wasn't enough to win the battle. The aliens still had overwhelming technological superiority, but it was enough to keep them distracted, which was exactly what Jack needed. The scrapper drifted toward the Valthian command ship, looking for all the world like a piece of debris knocked loose in the battle. Its power systems were minimal, its heat signature barely registering. We're in their blind spot, Jack whispered, though there was no need to be quiet in space. Their sensors are focused on active threats. If they look out a window, we're toast, Eli muttered. Good thing they think they're too advanced for windows, Jack replied. As they approached the massive Valthian vessel, Jack could make out the damage their earlier attacks had caused. The perfect, gleaming hull now showed scorch marks and dents. One section was clearly damaged, its blue glow flickering unevenly. There's our target, Jack said, pointing to the damage. Now, Jack shouted again, both to Eli and through his comm to the rest of his team. As the scrapper surged forward, the entire battlefield erupted in a coordinated chaos that Jack had planned from the beginning. Every remaining piece of repurposed junk in their arsenal activated at once. Derelict satellites fired their last weapons. Converted fuel tanks detonated in carefully planned sequences. Abandoned station modules released clouds of metal fragments. The sudden surge of activity forced the Valthian command ship to divide its attention. The energy weapons targeting the scrapper powered down as the aliens responded to multiple threats. They took the bait, Jack called out, pushing the scrapper's engines beyond safe limits. The old salvage vessel shuddered as it closed the final distance to the command ship's damaged section. Eli's hands flew over the controls of their makeshift weapon. Drill ready. 10 seconds to contact. Back at the command module, Tess, Marcus, and Maya watched anxiously as the scrapper closed in on its target. They're going to make it, Tess whispered. On the tactical display, a new alert flashed. Maya's eyes widened. Energy spike from the command ship. They're charging weapons again. Inside the Valthian command ship, Commander Vex raged at his crew. How is this happening? He demanded, watching as his perfect armada fell into disarray. They are primitives using garbage as weapons. A subordinate officer bowed nervously. Sir, we've detected an approaching vessel. It appears to be the human salvage ship we inspected earlier. Vex's vertical pupils narrowed. Destroy it immediately. Weapons charging, Commander, but our systems are still recovering from their electronic attacks. Vex slammed a three-fingered hand onto the command console. These humans and their junk. They should have surrendered when they had the chance. The scrapper slammed into the Valthian command ship's hull, the impact throwing Jack and Eli against their restraints. The mining drill engaged immediately, its hardened tip, designed to bore through asteroids, grinding into the damaged section of the alien vessel. Drill at 50%. Eli reported, fighting to keep his position as the ship shook violently. 60%. 70%. Jack could see energy weapons swiveling toward them on the hull. "We're out of time." "Drill breach," Eli shouted triumphantly. "We're in." Jack hit the emergency sequence they had prepared. The drill detached from the scrapper, remaining embedded in the Valthian ship. Inside the drill housing was their final weapon, a makeshift bomb created from mining explosives and reactor material. "Detach. Now," Jack ordered. Eli hit the release as Jack fired the emergency thrusters, pushing the scrapper away from the command ship. Behind them, the drill continued boring deeper into the Valthian vessel, carrying its deadly payload. The Valthian command ship didn't break apart dramatically like in old movies. Instead, its lights flickered and died, section by section. The elegant blue glow of its engines faded to darkness. It began to drift, clearly disabled. "We killed it," Eli said in disbelief. "We actually killed it." Across the battlefield, the effect was immediate. The Valthian ships, suddenly cut off from their command center, fell into confusion. Some continued fighting. Others began defensive maneuvers, and a few simply stopped, as if waiting for orders that would never come. In the command module, Maya was the first to understand what had happened. "The command ship is down." All Valthian communications just went silent. Marcus studied the tactical display with professional assessment. Their fleet structure is collapsing. Without central command, they don't know what to do. Earth's remaining military forces, seeing the opportunity, pressed their advantage. With the Valthians now disorganized, even Earth's limited weapons were finding their targets. Tess grabbed the comm unit. "Jack? Eli, do you copy?" After a tense moment of static, Jack's voice came through. "We copy. The big bad ship is down. How's it looking out there?" "Like we might actually win this thing," Tess replied, her voice breaking with emotion. The battle lasted another 30 minutes, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. Without Commander Vex's coordination, the Valthian ships couldn't maintain their advantage. More than 50 alien vessels were destroyed or disabled. The rest, recognizing their defeat, began retreating toward the edge of the solar system. The scrapper limped back to the command module, its hull scorched and damaged, but still intact. Jack and Eli were greeted with cheers and tears as they emerged from the docking tube. "General Thompson is calling," Maya announced, her eyes bright with victory. "The whole world is watching, Jack." Jack straightened his dirty jumpsuit before accepting the call. The general's face appeared on screen, looking both exhausted and elated. "Miller, I don't know how you did it, but you did it," Thompson said. "The Valthians are running. Earth is safe." "Not just me, sir," Jack replied, putting his arms around his team. "The junkyard dogs saved the day." Thompson nodded respectfully. "The president wants to speak with you directly. You're heroes, all of you." After the call ended, Jack looked around at his team. At Tess with her wild red hair now singed at the edges, at Marcus standing tall despite his obvious exhaustion, at Eli nursing a cut on his forehead, and at Maya, whose fingers were still flying over her console, tracking the retreating aliens. "Not bad for a bunch of junk collectors," Jack said with a tired smile. "I bet Commander Vex isn't laughing at our scrap now," Eli added. 1 week later, the official ceremony was held in Washington, with all the pomp and circumstance the grateful Earth government could muster. Jack and his team stood uncomfortably in new uniforms as the president pinned medals on their chests. Through ingenuity, courage, and resourcefulness, these 5 individuals proved that humanity's greatest strength lies not in the shininess of our technology, but in our ability to adapt, to repurpose, and to see value where others see only junk. The president declared to thunderous applause. Afterward, as they escaped the crowds for a moment of peace, Tess nudged Jack. "So what now? Back to the junkyard?" Jack looked up at the night sky, where new defense systems, many based on his team's improvised designs, were already being constructed. Earth would be ready if the Valthians or anyone else returned. "Actually," he said, "I got a message this morning. From the Valthians. His team stared at him in shock. A peace envoy, Jack continued. Apparently, we impressed them. They'd want to talk trade. Trade? Marcus asked suspiciously. What could they possibly want from us now? Jack smiled. Our junk. Turns out, they've never seen anything like our ability to repurpose and adapt old technology. They called it a unique and valuable skill. Eli burst out laughing. So they're not laughing at our scrap anymore. No, Jack said, looking back at the stars. Now they want to buy it.